You're listening to Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast.
When your heart is aching and your world is shaking, don't give up. No, no, don't give up.
Hello and welcome to Oh My Health, There Is Hope. I'm your host, Jana Short, and today I'm here with Wani Manley. Wani is a corporate business securities and trademark law attorney, an inspirational keynote speaker, consultant, and two-time best-selling author. Wani is also the founder of Where Inspiration Meets Law, which provides legal contracts and document templates for entrepreneurs, coaches, heart-centered and impact-driven business for their impact-driven businesses and creatives to legally protect their businesses while fulfilling their purpose-driven mission in the world. And oh my gosh, I love what you do, because one of the things that we really don't pay attention to until it's a problem is to be sure we're doing everything correctly. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. And hello, everybody.
One of the first things we do, because my whole point of starting this show was to send messages of hope. And everybody has such a different message that it hits so many different people. And so I would love it if you could share one of your messages of hope with the world today.
Well, my main message of hope right now is just so apropos because I'm actually recording this with you. I'm in Paris and I'm originally from Miami, and I actually came to Paris about 8 years ago, literally because for an entire year, I kept getting bombarded with all of these signs pointing me to Paris, Paris, Paris. And I literally sold my apartment in Miami. I sold my car. I gave all my things to different charities, and I only kept like the legal files and 3 suitcases with the things. And I came to Paris not knowing a single person, not one word of French, not having a single clue as to what I was actually going to do here. And I created a brand new career for myself, where I went from just being an attorney to being a speaker, to being an adjunct professor to teaching luxury, students that actually work for the top luxury brands that France is known for, like Louis Vuitton and Chanel, and it's like now I'm meeting people like you. And so I just want to tell people right now, especially where we are in the world today, it's like, whatever your dreams are, whatever life is actually calling you to do, actually just do it. You don't need to have the whole plan, laid out before you. And it's not supposed to actually be that way, but as long as you just follow your curiosity to whatever you're being pulled towards, it's actually guiding to where your purpose is, or what will actually make you the ultimate happiness. I know, cause I'm in lockdown here in Paris, right? And we've been in lockdown, a real lockdown, throughout the entire year. And it's like, it's like, look and see how you can actually use this time to foster your dreams and to go after the things you would never be able to go through because we're too busy. We're going to jobs we actually hated, being in traffic, and you just kind of being busybodies. It's like someone said to everybody, it's like, if I can come to Paris, not knowing one word of French, and still being here 8 years later, and I've created this entire amazing life for myself, anybody can do whatever they're wanting to do, whatever they're thinking that, I'd really rather be doing this, or I wish. It's time for us to make our dreams to actually come true, really, for 2020. And I think for us, that's been the best kept secret for 2020 that we just have not been focusing on because we've got so many distractions about, COVID and everything else, and lockdown and restrictions. What's the underlying gift in all of that? And I think it really is to actually give us to the hope to see our dreams. We can manifest our dreams right now because we actually are on a pause.
I love that message, by the way. I think it's so important. I hear so many people say that they have all these amazing dreams and they're like, nobody's doing this. It's such a great idea, but they want everything to be perfect before they go out there, and they miss that window, and somebody else has already done it. It doesn't need to be perfect to go out there. That's the best part of it. You get to learn from all those incredible mistakes you might make along the way and be better when you get there. So I'm a jumper. I definitely always jump in, and sometimes I drown, but normally I float up to the top and get some air, right? I'm not a toe tester. I've never been that person who's like, oh, let me try it. I'm just like, yeah, I'm all in. Let's do this.
Yes, exactly. Me too. And without any plans whatsoever, right? Just go in there and just go after it.
Well, I do try to plan a little bit, but usually I just jump in because it sounds like fun. I'm all in. So I love that message. In Paris, oh my gosh, such a beautiful city. And one of the things, for those of you who've never traveled abroad, in the US, when you're done with a meal, they bring you the check right away, right? Like, and it's
Yeah.
like, here you go. Thank you so much for coming. Bye-bye. The next table.
Get out.
Yes. But in other countries, it's rude. They do not bring you the check. And my first experience in Paris, I was glaring at the waitress, like glaring at the food server, like, where is my check? And finally, the person with me was giggling and nudged me and says, you have to ask. It's rude. They will never bring you a check because it's like you're in their home until you tell them you're ready. So I learned, ready for my French? The only French I know, la dijon s'il vous plaît, which is roughly asking for the check. They get it, right? It's not proper, but they get it. It's the one thing I learned so that I could get my check, because we're always in a hurry. I got to eat, got to get out, got to move. And not in Paris. It's like they just relax.
Yeah, not at all. And I've learned to slow down in Paris and literally learn to smell the roses, take my time to really, it's been such a shift in consciousness, just a shift in being. And it's really allowed me to create Where Inspiration Meets Law and all the things like my books and my speaking. So I was like, wow, I never had the opportunity to do these things in Miami, because again, we're always like in this hurry and rush. But it's like here, it's like they'll kick. I mean, no one's going to touch you. You can be there for like 12 hours and order like a coffee all day long.
I love it. Well, what you're doing with Where Inspiration Meets Law, to me, is magical, because I work with mostly people in the health and wellness industry, and we should always first do no harm, right? Always be very clear in how people are entering into our business, that there is a definitely meeting of the minds when they come in, and they're not expecting you to cure their cancer or however it is for whatever you're in. And one of the things you've done is created something really easy for all of us to not only protect ourselves, but to make sure we have that meeting of the minds with those clients that are coming into our business for the first time. And so do you want to talk a little bit about what it is that you do?
Yeah, so Where Inspiration Meets Law, in fact, it came out of lockdown this year when I was in France. Like it was like lockdown number one. That was my pivot. But it's a culmination of like, number one, who I am, of inspiration meets meaning law, meaning I pursue my creative side as well as the legal side as well too. But then it's like, there's a whole part of humanity. We were all rising right now, which were all the coaches, the healers, the energetics of that are all now into business, like really actually helping people fulfill their missions. However, and it's like nobody has any legal sense whatsoever, and it's not to anyone's fault of their own, right? I mean, I've been a lawyer for 17 years. I was groomed to be a lawyer, and it's like I know these things, but it's like now we're out there. We're putting ourselves out there with businesses. However, we're so exposed, right? Because we have no contracts. We have no idea how to actually properly execute a contract. So it's like we're acting above the law. And especially now, the Great Awakening has actually happened like in the world. It's happening within the whole industry as well too, because now consumers they're making people be held accountable, right? They're saying, hey, I want results, right? They're making coaches be accountable to their marketing. It's like, if you're going to be promising the moon, the stars, and whatever, it's like you have to actually deliver on that. So what I'm doing now is, number one, not only providing legal templates or legal contracts, saying these are documents you actually need, but actually going to organizations like in your groups, like you invited me once, a few months ago or a few weeks ago, and actually educating people, because we all know in the United States especially, the coaching industry is not regulated at all. And it's like anybody can wake up out of a bed one day like, hey, I'm a coach, get up on social media, do a live stream, say, hey, pay me, and people will actually do it, right? But they're not necessarily, they don't have the certification, they don't have the skills, and don't quite know what they're actually doing, and they're really like putting themselves and their clients at risk too. So I just like to want to be able to minimize that and to help people be saying, hey, let me show you how to actually, it's like on a legal front.
It is really true that online, we talked about this before, it is like the wild, wild west.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, the laws follow the money. And now that everything is on, and I mean, literally everything is happening online, I promise you the laws will catch up with it. And so for those who aren't sanctioned as a coach and they're out there teaching anyways, because there isn't any rules right now, that's going to be changing. So if you are a coach and you are literally a certified coach and you've been through the schooling for it and you know the zone you're supposed to be in there, the people who are coming in before you who aren't certified and making those mistakes and causing those issues, we're going to end up paying for it. So you want to make sure you're covering yourself. And when I asked my team, the reason I brought you in, I asked them, where are you getting your legal documents from? Because I could use a good lawyer, right? Oh no, we just Google media release and we'll pull it up. And I looked at it thinking, oh, I'll do that. And I pulled it up and it was written like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
They change so quickly that it would be like me just literally duplicating my taxes, making a copy of last year's taxes and sending it in because I made about the same amount, right? Kind of the same.
Right.
So I'm just same thing from last year. Things change so much that that would be bad if I did that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and also too, state law is very, very different. You're in California, right? California's laws are very, very peculiar and very, very different, say, for example, from Florida, which is my base versus which is from Illinois. And I'm so glad you said the law follows the money. Because, for example, right now, I do trademark law a lot for my clients. And so, for example, as if there's such an influx of trademark applications being filed, the U.S. and Patent Trademark Office have raised their fees as of January 2nd. As a way to number one, clamp down on all the number of applications that you're coming about. And they're very, very more, they're coming back in terms like the inquiries, like really coming back with lots of questions of putting these applications through. So absolutely, the law does follow. The FTC actually regulates, subscription agreements or membership sites, right? Like a lot of coaches don't really understand or they don't realize that if you have a membership site, you have to, by law, have a separate legal membership site legal terms and conditions because it's a subscription-based model. You can't rely upon like your regular terms that you have on your website because in the other case with the membership site, you're taking people's credit card, it's on file, and that's like a recurring billing. It's like Netflix, The FTC actually regulates that. If you don't have a separate terms and conditions, number one, they can shut your business down. You can get sued for that, and whatever money you've made through your membership site, you have to actually refund it to the people and pay a fine.
Wow. I see. I didn't even know that because it's not my job. By the way, when you go into business and we say jump, right? Have fun, go do it. There comes accountability and responsibility for doing that. So one of the first things you should always do is when I jump, am I jumping into a legal pool or a nightmare mess, right? So asking an attorney is a super easy way to do it. I know in California, let me just tell you, when we hear the word law or attorney, numbers, it's going to cost us way more than it's worth. I'll just take my chances. I'll find something online because it is blown. I think California has more attorneys than any other state in the US.
Yes, it does.
and I do. I think are they being honest? And I do this. TikTok, right? I'm watching the time. And even when I get up a call, it's 8:04 and we're finishing the call because I will get this bill and I'd be like, what is that? Well, legally, just so you know, when you talk to an attorney for 5 minutes, legally, they can bill you for 15. There's a minimum that they can bill you for the call. So take the whole 15.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've done with Where Inspiration Meets Law is I've created legal bundles and I've done away from the whole, billable hours because that is because I do believe I came from a very, from a big law firm background, right? Where I had to bill like $2,100, per year. And every time I'm just by waking up, I was billing a client and it's like, what, and I know for entrepreneurs and for coaches in this industry, one of the biggest complaints is that, law is just too expensive, right? And so there are options. There is templates that are not from something you go online, but actually from an attorney who actually knows your business, who drafts that, to actually looking to get those types of contracts for yourself or, flat fee agreements, right? So you're not being subject to being on the clock, as you're saying, because that is a reality for most law firms.
It is. And there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying they're being crooks or anything. They're running a business. So they're paying for, assistance and legal help and filings. And it's just a lot. So it's not that they're being illegal. It's just when I go in, I want a budget. This is what I maxed out at. So can we do this for this amount, right? But they can't tell you that because nobody knows. They don't know how long it's going to take. They know the filing fee and the beginning process, right? But they don't know what they're going to run into throughout. So it's hard. And that's one of the reasons I love you so much is that you can put that in your budget and make sure you have proper documentation for your company. And I know that you upgrade those as laws change.
Absolutely. In fact, I started a business back in April and I've just been editing the contracts. They're all completely different, and all of my clients that I've brought up into this point are getting brand new documents, and so I'm on top of it because like you said, the law follows the money. And right now the coaching industry, the education industry, the seminar industry, that's where the money is. And you better believe the IRS is there, the FTC is there, every agency is actually there as well too.
So I'm going to ask you in a minute, what is the number one mistake people make starting their business that could get them into serious trouble? I can tell you one that I hear all the time is they have an online business. They don't think they need a business license. And I am telling you, if you're running a business, you need a business license, whether it's
Absolutely.
online or at a brick and mortar, or, you're peddling a cart down the street, you have to have a business license.
Absolutely. I always tell people, the difference between an entrepreneur and especially online business entrepreneurs versus a corporation. Corporations know that the most valuable person in their business is actually an attorney. Before they actually open up a sign that says we're open up for business, they go and see a lawyer, number one, and a tax or CPA, number two. Entrepreneurs, on the other hand, sees lawyers and say, you know what, I'm gonna do this myself right now, and I'm not gonna need it. I'm not gonna go see an attorney whenever something goes wrong, right? And inevitably it actually does, because whatever you're trying to avoid or not pay in the very beginning is gonna cost you in the very long run. So the first mistake is, number one, keeping legal out of the business or keeping legal out of the picture, right? And like you said, like not knowing like the basic fundamentals of I actually need a business license to actually start a business, right? Or number two, number one, set up a business that's a sole proprietor, which is like useless, because at the end of the day, the definition of actually a corporation or of a business entity is like a legal separation between a person and a person's assets, personal assets, and the corporation. So by you setting up a DBA as yourself, there's no separation. There's a lawsuit. You're liable for the business debts, right? But you won't actually know that. And then even like now, and even if you were to go ahead and set up as a sole proprietor, the big thing, especially online with business coaches specifically, are, the whole money thing, right? Everyone's leading with money and let me help you make 10K, 20K, 30K. And I'm like, listen, okay, that's great. But is anyone teaching you or telling you that when you start making 10K, 20K, 30K, you need to get a different corporate structure, right? Because of your taxes, right? And so it's like you need to have a lawyer to be involved at every stage of the game, right? Then there's a whole copyright issue where people are just using, other people's copyrighted images, right, or copyrighted like text, right, and not realizing like, hey, this doesn't belong to you. You actually cannot actually use that. Number one, and number two, you need to be actually protecting your own materials, right? You need to protecting your brand. I always say to people, why are you building a business? You have to understand when you're building a business, you're building a brand. Therefore, you need to protect it with the trademark name, the trademark registration, right? As you're putting your content out there, you're putting out your blog, you're putting out your vulnerable posts, your transformation. Like you have to protect that with the copyright. People are not really protecting their business. I also think too, it's also a mindset shift, because a lot of us are first generation business people, right? I mean, we all grew up with parents who worked, had 9-to-5s. And so therefore we grew up in 9-to-5. And like this whole thing of like making money off of the internet is a strange concept to our subconscious mind, right? I mean, I know for me personally, I had to do like mindset work to say, hey, you're not just playing on the internet. You can actually make money, like real money, doing this, right? And so there has to be like a shift in the whole thinking and how we approach and say, in order for this thing needs to be feeling real, right? Because when we think about a business, we think about a regular brick and mortar, right? Go to a store, you lock the door, open up the door. I mean, but to like, have a Facebook account, do a Facebook Live and say, hey, pay me, people do it. So it's like, we have to do these things to like really like, number one, build the subconscious mind and say, hey, this is a real business and actually treat it like it actually is. And to be legally compliant, like you said, get a business license, get a business, business insurance, number two, be in a corporate structure and a real business structure for your business.
Wani, I love that you said that, because you remember the old saying, dress for the job you want. And they would always say, you show up, you be impeccable, you do more. Well, build the business that you want. If you want to build a multi-million-dollar business, you better be building a multi-million-dollar business, which means you do all of that stuff. You make sure it's legal. You get the certifications or licensing you need for it, and you build that multi-million-dollar business. But if you're taking those little shortcuts, and at the end of the day, it's going to end up costing you more, but your business cannot be successful without having all of that in place.
Absolutely. And this is a holistic, healthcare podcast, right? Let's talk about energetics. It's the whole thing, like, what are you putting out there, right? And from an energetic basis, I would say to people, you're not going to be making $1 million and not the universe is not going to send you a boatload of clients to make $1 million if you are not legally prepared to handle that amount of people coming through, right? It's not going to happen. But it's like,
100%.
right, you know, so it's like it's all energy. It's, you know, it's strategy, absolutely. It's policies, it's process, but guess it's also energy too. Meaning, you know what? If I'm gonna say I have a business and I feel like really say to the universe, I'm serious about this thing. Here's my corporate structure. Here's my business license. You know what? Here's my contracts. Here's my terms. I've limited my liability. Okay, I'm gonna protect my content. Then of course you're able to handle the people coming in because you can, you know, from a legal standpoint, you can protect yourself and actually be of service to them as well too.
It definitely, it does all boil down to mindset for me. It really does, having that energy going. Your things go where that energy flows, right? So you
Yeah.
want to put it out there, and it definitely does move in that direction. So what kind of things can we find on your website if we're building a business? And if we're like one of those people, which is me, by the way, the first people I brought into my business was a bookkeeper, accountant, and a lawyer, right? Because I knew those were not my zones of genius. I did not want to try to learn it or become a lawyer or an accountant because that took me away from the thing that I love doing. And so I brought those people into my business. So what are some of the things we can find on your website? And if we're one of those people who like, I just don't know what I need, how can we figure that out?
Well, the first thing is when you go to my website on the very homepage, there's in the very middle of it, the middle section is a free masterclass where it's like an hour-long masterclass. It's called How to Make a Business Legal. And I literally go through every single step of what you need to do from start to finish. When you first start off, you have nothing, to when when you're actually are scaling your business to, like, you know, to get bigger. So that's the first thing. That's for like a brand new beginner that can actually go on there. Then I've got like a complete blog section where I have all of my content from social media, which is completely all about value-based content about law, telling what you need to do for every type of coaching, every type of business. You can find tons of answers there, and also to my FAQs. And then you find all the legal bundles, right? So I've got legal bundles according to every uh, coaching type, for business coaches, for energy healers, for psychics and mediums, for life coaches, for therapists and health and wellness. I've got legal bundles, and basically it's a bundle of the essential documents you need. For example, your one-on-one client agreement specifically for your niche. Then I've got the 3 documents you need for your website: the terms and conditions, the disclaimers, the privacy policy, again specific to your niche. Then there's also the agreement there for your group terms of service and group terms of use if you have like an online course or if you have a group program. Then I also got in the regular bundles, you have the testimonial and testimonials and photo release when you get testimonies from your clients to be able to use them on the websites and things of that nature. So I've got the legal bundles, and then I've also got like the ultimate bundles, which is for someone who is like advanced or who has been in business for a while, that's got all the, you know, that they're in it like for the long haul. They've got the podcast, they've got the membership sites, they've got the retreats. So all the documents for that is included in the ultimate bundles. And then I also have the individual templates. Like, let's just say I only need, you know, an independent contractor agreement. It's all there as well too. And then there's also information with trademark and copyrights. And then there's also to what I have other services. For example, we're in the land of COVID right now, right? So for example, every business needs to have a COVID audit. You know, are all of your documents, your company policies, right? Or they have been updated to include COVID language. You know, if you're in a state that allows events, right? Or even in, like, no matter what the sizes are, do you have a COVID release? You know, a liability waivers, right? So I can do like an audit for you. I can do look at an existing contract to make sure that it's, you know, that it's up to par. You know, for example, like right now, every contract needs to have a force majeure clause in there. Force majeure is a clause that says that, you know, for example, if there's any act of God, you know, that floods, fires, pandemics, lockdowns is going to prevent me from actually fulfilling my contract, does your contract actually have it in there? We're all doing business online right now. Does your contract have an attorney dispute resolution in there, right? Or is it only for a local lawsuit in California? It's not going to do you any good if you're contracting somebody out in Australia, right? You need to be able to have so you need to make sure like all of your contracts, your policies are all literally like, you know, relevant to what we're facing right now. That's whether you're a mom and pop, individual coach, a big corporation, everybody needs to be doing that at this moment. So all that's available on there as well too. So
Great. So I'm going to definitely putting the links to your website in there. And I would, if anything, just take that first step by watching that 1 hour master class that she has and seeing what you need. But I love that you have that on your site because it's free. There's no reason why you shouldn't be
Yeah.
doing this to make sure your business is, protected, and that you're, at least then you have the knowledge of what you should be doing, whether you choose to do it or not, you know what the right way to do it is.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for being on this show. By the way, Wani is in our Best Holistic Life magazine, so she wrote a beautiful article for us. I'm super excited for you guys all to read that as well.
Yay!
I know.
Me too.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast. Make sure to visit Jana's website, bestholisticlife.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, or listen there, so you'll never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you simply tell a friend about the show. That'll help too. Let's change the world together, one health expert at a time. Looking forward to seeing you next time.